Okay.
There we go.
Okay. I have not gotten the message, however, that we're recording.
I have it here.
Okay.
It's being live streamed. Oh, there we go. Yeah, I think we're good.
Okay. I just want to make sure that we're, I'm only seeing streaming. I'm not seeing recording. And usually we get that message saying, you understand that the meeting is being recorded.
So we're good.
Okay, great. Okay. So, it is 4:35. Let's call the meeting to order. And hopefully Sherry will be able to join us. Erin will not be able to because the snow day forced us to reschedule. And first thing up is citizen statements and petitions. Chris, do we have any members of the public present or wishing to speak?
No.
Okay. Great. I can't see actually who is here or not here. Is Penny with us?
No.
Okay, so right now we'll wait on the report from the Friends. And so we are up to the chair's report. And first thing, of course, is thank you to Chris for managing the tech as well as the minutes. And especially now that the tech has gotten somewhat more complicated with a hybrid model. We really appreciate that. Okay, I hope everyone has had a chance to watch the State of the Library recording. Elizabeth and her entire leadership team did really an absolutely wonderful job of creating and presenting a really detailed report, and the graphics were really compelling. A lot of good information and very well presented. The report highlighted just how extraordinary the performance of BPL really is, as well as the amazing work and the dedication of our entire staff. So thank you to everyone. And I am going to leave it at that because we have kind of a long agenda. So I will call on Elizabeth for the director's report.
Thank you, Chair. And I'm going to be shorter than I normally am as well, but still go over a bunch of highlights. The biggest highlight being that we had the groundbreaking ceremony for Prosser Library on January 24th. It was an excellent affair. We had a Downs Construction Company said that they've never had as many people show up to a groundbreaking as our groundbreaking. I said, wow, we had a donut truck, there was remarks, and it was really just a great celebration. And I know in my remarks, I shared that last year, Bloomfield Public Library had the 5th highest virtual program attendance in the state. And it was nice to look over and picture all of those people being together in an updated community room at Prosser. So that was a really exciting high note for January. In February, we celebrated, as did libraries across the state, Take Your Child to the Library Day on February 3rd. It was a Saturday. We had it at 330 Park. Thank you again to our friends at 330 Park. We started off the day with Mr. Magic Show. 110 people attended. We then had the Hartford Symphony Orchestra come and do an instrument petting zoo. 75 people participated in that. And then overlapping those was a visit from community partner Read to Grow Bookmobile. And every kid was able to go onto that bookmobile and pick a book of their choice to bring home for their own bookshelf, which is how we think about our young people. We want them to have their own books that they've picked out alongside a changing buffet of books from the library. And so that was, we hit all the goes on that. So really great job to the team for a successful Take Your Child to the Library Day. We also held our annual staff professional development day on February 6th. The morning session was led by Dion Nichols, who spoke about the power of forgiveness and coached us to be the type of leaders who lead from a place of self-compassion and a healthy sense of self-worth to experience more joy, purpose, and possibility. Purpose-driven leaders who are kinder to themselves can create safe spaces for others to show up as at their highest and best while also being human and imperfect, as we all know we are. And for me, it was a lot about our ability to interact with our public and be there for them and be there fully. So thank you to Dion for that, as well as our staff for going along for that ride. We then went to the Noah Webster House in West Hartford, and we were able to get a tour of their brand new archive space and hang out. And we had an in-depth conversation about a reimagined McMahon-Wittenberry Library. And that was a really interesting conversation because we know that because we were 9 million over when we got the bids last year, we knew that we were going to have to cut from the project. So essentially, Prosser moved forward with the same footprint, but McMahon is unable to do so. So what does that mean? And one of the big takeaways for us was we had originally thought of McMahon-Wittenberry as a full service library location, but we're now realizing that maybe that's not the best approach. Maybe we should have a couple of things we focus on at McMahon-Wittenberry and do it really well as opposed to trying to do everything. So we're going to continue to talk about that in a little bit. On February 12th, we held our second annual State of the Library address. It went very well. We had the entire BPL leadership team speak. We also had our mayor give comments as well as the chair of the library board. And I think it gave a really good overview of the broad vision we have for our library moving forward and how it's all guided by our mission statement and our strategic plan, and how that strategic plan is such an important document and informs absolutely everything we do. And it's really understood by all staff. So I love that document. It's very helpful in making sure we are going where we want to go. We are also finalizing our annual report. The staff is about to give final sign off on it. And as soon as the staff gives final sign off, I'm going to be giving it over to the library board for another look over before we hit send. And again, that is the annual report that ended the last day of June 2023. So I'm really pleased with the annual report. It looks great. Again, it's a great overview of all of our work and how to move forward. I know that I shared I want to share a couple numbers too, as we're thinking about some things. The current plan is to have BPL Atrium close in August, and for us to move to McMahon-Wittenberry, the entire library operation and staff sometime in September. As we are talking about that, I just want to let everybody know that the BPL Atrium number of visits continues to increase. So for instance, in November, we had 1,134 visits. In December, we had 1,229 visits. And in January, we made it to 1,400. We think that that trend is going to continue as more and more people see where we are and find where we are, and word of mouth spreads. So that's a really good statistic to know. We also got the okay to move forward with one full-time library position. It's a full-time youth librarian position. So as of right now, we are down 2 full-time and 8 part-time. That will bring us to 1 full-time and 8 part-time. And it's somewhere around 100+ hours per week that we do not currently have. So I know that I let the board know that the 2024 Connecticut Library Association Awards nominations are currently open. I'm hoping we can nominate one or two staffers. We do excellent work, and I think it would be great to have that showcased there. I also wanted to make note of our continuing partnership and cooperation with our most important community partner, the schools. And I want to give a shout out to Metacomic for hosting us on Friday, February 16th for a performance by the Tanglewood Marionettes and of the Dragon King. It's a theatrical puppet show. 110 people participated in that. And we couldn't have it at 330 Park because they need a really high ceiling, and Metacomet was able to provide that with us. So thank you to Metacomet for that. And we received really great feedback, which I think I emailed the board about. It was interesting what people said, but everyone said it was so great and really well done. And we hope to have them back, I think. Allison just is fully finished rolling out updated scheduling software. So we used to use Google, which is hilarious that we did it that way. But now we've graduated and we're a little bit more professional about it. Allison, did you want to talk about it?
Sure.
When to work?
Yep, so staff does continue, staffing continues to be a challenge. When we have unexpected call outs, they're really difficult. We're in still COVID and flu season. But using this new staff scheduling software platform called When to Work, it really has improved efficiency. It's made it easier from my end as a scheduler. Easier, I think, for staff to understand the schedule and disseminates it automatically via email. Everything's all in one place. It's a best practice for scheduling, and we learned about it from several other Connecticut libraries recommended it to us. And when we checked it out, we said, oh yeah, this looks like it's good. And it's still so far so good. We're staff has really adapted to it quickly, which I really appreciate because there was a learning curve. It was a brand new piece of technology that everybody just was really good at jumping right in. So they've learned it very quickly, which helps on my end so I can schedule people. And we're still, testing it out here and there. And I'll let staff know as we're going, like, okay, I'm going to start doing this with it. Let's see if it makes sense to everybody. And, they're giving me feedback as they go as well. So far, so good with When to Work.
Thank you, Allison. I think it's going to help us all be on the same page and communicate more efficiently. And give you back some of your time. But as I said at our all staff meeting, Allison is so gracious with the way she handles scheduling. The staff, I think we're all very lucky that you took the lead on that, Allison. Another big thing is the state legislative session is back in, and one of the big things that we're hoping to accomplish this year that we didn't get over the finish line last year was ebook legislation. So essentially, ebook vendors charge libraries much more than they do private people for the same product. And we are trying to bring attention to that and fix that. And so tomorrow, the General Assembly's Planning and Development Committee is going to have a session on SB 148, an act making certain terms in electronic book and digital audiobook license agreements or contracts unenforceable. And so I know that I am going to be submitting testimony tomorrow alongside, I think, around 15 other library directors. I'm hoping that board members, if this goes to the next stage, will also put in words of support, and I can help you with all of that. Essentially, the number of people, again, we have our ebooks falls under BPL Online, our third location. The number of people in Bloomfield borrowing ebooks and audiobooks only continues to increase. It is like this. Our budget is not like this, as we all know. So we need all the help we can get in talking to these publishers about that. And just getting on more equal terms so that we can continue to, because in Bloomfield, for instance, we just had somebody borrow a book needing help with that, and they were number 50 on the list. It's people wait way too long. It's a great example of the digital divide. I just found out, Allison, how much did we spend last year on overdrive?
It was close to some.
To put this in perspective, Bloomfield spent about $7,000 on ebooks last year. And almost everybody had to wait. You had to wait. You come in, you wait. I just found out that Greenwich spent $500,000 on it last year.
Wow. 100,000. And how long did those
Which-
people wait?
Which, but it goes to show you, they
Yeah.
probably did not have to.
They
wait.
probably
They
did not,
probably
right?
had-
A minute.
You know, they were like, they would not be number 53 on a wait list. So it's a great example of how the digital divide impacts Bloomfield so much. The one that makes me most upset is when we have young people come in and they need a book for a project. And you know, a young person's not coming in with a due date of 3 months away, it's probably due in a
The
week.
day before.
And we are unable to get that ebook for them. So, you know, this is a really big issue and I'm hoping we can just get where we need to be with that.
Elizabeth, can I just add though,
Yes.
just to also put it in perspective for the ebooks, so that money that we spend and that, say Greenwich spent, the way that the ebook lending models are now, for the most part, for ebooks, it is always what they call a metered access. So it's usually 2 years or 26 checkouts, 24 months or 26 checkouts, whichever comes first. And so those books are expiring. So all that money that they sunk into that, in a couple of years, a lot of those titles will have expired. Or they're audiobooks, at which point it's a much higher price point. Anyways, so that's how they get you. They're gonna get you somewhere. So that's also the other side of it is not only is it this extremely high amount of money, but then the publishers are making, or the platforms, it's making you reset after so many months as well. So that's unfortunate.
So we never even own them. It's like a rental scheme. And they know that they have us, so. To our public, we're working on it. We do not want to have those long we don't want to have those long wait times, and we're going to continue to work on it. And then the last thing we were going to talk about today is homebound. And do we have anybody on? I know Wendy Williams was thinking about joining us from the Lions. Okay. So Wendy Williams and the Lions have stepped up to the plate to help us deliver homebound services in the interim until we're able to really get full staffing levels up to really address that need. The part of the scenario that they will be playing is the delivery part. So they will be having volunteers use their own vehicles to deliver materials to homebound, I think 100% of which are seniors in our community. Or pretty much close to 100%. So we are going to be working with Seabury, Doncaster, and some other community partners, as well as some standalone homes to try to connect people to those services in the next month. So we have a green light from the town in terms of liability issues, and we're really thankful to the Lions for helping us fit that need, and they're excited too. So that's a really wonderful thing. Okay, and I believe that was it for me. Chris and Allison, do you have anything to add? Okay, thank you. Oh, I'm sorry. Oh, wait, it's an agenda item, McMahon. Okay, yes, I'm good.
Yeah, thank you. Before anything else, Sherry has joined us. I'm really glad. We want to have as many people here as possible. And, you know, we're going to be glad to have your input because there's a lot. Thank you, Elizabeth. That was a great report. And, you know, one of the things that I always want to call out when you talk about the fact that we were 5th for programming, there are 169 towns in Connecticut. Many towns have more than one library, so that's a lot of libraries for Bloomfield, which is a really small town, to be 5th in the state. That's excellent. You know, we just need to keep finding the ways to maintain our ability to provide those services. And I am really glad to hear that Wendy and the Lions will be able to step in. I think that's actually on our agenda later, but that's very good news. Okay, old business. So Elizabeth, I'm actually going to ask you to lead on these items. So let's start with discussion of staffing deficits and impact on services. You know what? I have to apologize. I spent a delightful afternoon at the dentist, so if it turns out that I'm still not, I can tell my face is there, I see it. But if it turns out that I'm not entirely intelligible, please let me. It's been a long day. Okay, Elizabeth?
Okay. I'm just looking at the agenda so I can speak. So we continue to be down 2 full-time and 8 part-time positions. And we got the green light to move forward with 1 full-time position. And I'm hoping that that person will be onboarded within the next 3 months. In which case we will have our bandwidth will allow us to do a little bit more, including pay with the homebound services. I also wanted to give just a little bit of an overview of over time where we have been, because I think there's been some misinformation about our staffing levels. To be clear, when we knew the building projects were happening and we knew we were going to be moving out of Prosser and McMahon into temporary facilities, we kind of did not replace people that were leaving. And that was a decision that I had kind of made, thinking that when we needed people, we would get people, and not knowing that we would have a hiring freeze that would change all of that up. So in hindsight, that may have been a mistake, because we would have more people now that we do not have. So our FTE equivalent, our full-time equivalent, which is the amount of people we have working with us at any given time, has greatly dwindled. And again, it's because as we were moving out, we also all of our pages are gone. We have no pages right now. We had library assistants leave. And so that FTE has just declined to a point where we cannot maintain services, hence needing to pull things back, including the notary service and homebound and other things, which we just have not had to broadcast to the public as loudly, because we're able to handle that a little bit more. So if you were to look at how many people are currently employed by Bloomfield Public Library, on the books, it's 27 people, I believe. Somewhere around that, 27 people. Not all of those 27 people have worked with us during this time. So for instance, we have part-time people who are only weekend people. We have not had weekend hours, so those people have not worked. We have part-time people who only worked evenings. We close by 7, so there's part-time people who have not worked at all during this time. And part of libraries is having, wiggle room. So you might have people who only work because other people are on vacation, or we are short-staffed due to COVID or sickness. So that 27 people on the books numbers can be deceiving. But that being said, we need more staff, and we are very thankful that the council has moved forward with that 1 full-time position. And we are hoping that we continue to add to the number of people we have. And ideally, because another question I had was, Elizabeth, why don't you schedule people? You have part-time people, you tell them when to work. Our part-time people may not work only for Bloomfield Public Library. We have part-time people, again, who only work for us because they have Saturdays open. So that's when they work. But I wanted to give very specific numbers about our FTE equivalent. And Chris, I guess we can't even bring this up online. So for instance, in 2019, our FTE equivalent fiscal year 2019 was 18.52. It is currently 15.68. Which might not sound like a massive difference, but in terms of being able to deliver library service, which is very person intensive, it is. Also, to give a comparison between other places. So Bloomfield, as of right now, is 15.68. Farmington is 25.2. Hartford is 102. Simsbury, 18.53. West Hartford, 33.85, and Windsor 18.63. So however you look at it, whether you compare us to other towns, you compare us to Bloomfield's own metrics from the past 5 years, we are significantly short-staffed, and it impacts our ability to serve the public. It impacts our ability to do programs. It impacts our ability to work with community partners. It impacts our ability to work with people on the computers. It impacts our ability to let people borrow. Chris, how many current pieces of technology do we have? 50 pieces of technology. I cannot tell you the work that goes in with Chris and Quincy at the helm of that, but to have 50 pieces of technology passing through our hands, keeping track of it, making sure the software is up to date, making sure people have what they need, etc. It is really difficult to do all of that. And that's why I have to make the difficult decisions to cut back. So I hear, when we had to cut back homebound, there was a lot of people upset. When we get this new person onboarded, which takes some time, we know that we're going to be able to expand that a little bit. And with the help of the Lions, we're going to be able to, again, roll that out. It will not be at full capacity, but it will absolutely be able to get materials into the hands of more people in our community quickly, matter of speaking. So, again, I need to look at the agenda. So the staffing deficits and the impact on services continue. But we are hopeful that we're going to be able to expand, and we are hopeful that council is going to hear our need, that we need to have these positions restored, ideally with full-time positions, because full-time people, you can actually staff easier than our part-time people. We have 11 full-time people currently, and we're supposed to have 13, correct? We currently have 11 full-time people, but at full, we have 13. And so we're looking forward to getting back to that 13. But I will also want to say thank you to all of our part-time staff. You are completely valuable, and we know how much you do to make sure that we have this full service model. So full-time and part-time, it's all part of the big picture. Okay. So, but as it also impacts the next item, Chair, if it's okay if I go
was
into
going to ask
that.
you if you would just continue. The second item is discussion of fiscal year 2025's budget.
And I
So
realized
that's an
that I
obvious segue.
probably should have emailed the board. Have we emailed the board any budget information? I don't think we have. I should have done that. So essentially, the discussion of the fiscal year 2025 budget is simply put that we need our full staffing levels. And on paper, because of the hiring freeze from last year, and I want to make sure everybody completely understands this, the hiring freeze last year was not a hiring freeze. It was actually a deduction from our budgets. And we did not realize that until we went into the budget cycle. So when you look on paper, it looks like we have a big increase, but really it's just an increase from 2 years. It's the same thing. So I am concerned about how that's going to be discussed. And I'm hopeful that the library board, if there's any conversations about it, we're not asking for new things. We're asking for things to just be restored as it was. So more information is going to be coming up about that, but we're moving very quickly with the budget cycle on top of all the other things that are happening. And so the part-time budget and the full-time budget, I think, is what is going to be talked about a lot. Everything else is flat. So we've not asked for anything more than that. So underneath new business, which we've already spoke about, was the discussion of the temporary restitution of homebound services. And the reason the word temporary is there is twofold. One, it requires onboarding a new staff member, which we have yet to even share that job posting with the public. And two, the Lions have only agreed to help through the end of this fiscal year. So we're figuring through all those things. The discussion of the temporary restitution of notary service, that is also through another community partner, the Democratic Register of Voters has agreed to help us. So we are probably going to be announcing that as well. Jennifer said that she will take appointments, so it will be an appointment-based service where people can meet her here to get notary services happening in similar fashion to when we were in Prosser and McMahon.
Okay, and normally when town hall handles notary services, there's a fee. Am I correct in understanding that she has offered to do this without collecting that fee?
Correct. So Jennifer Marshall Neely will be doing it in her role as a notary public and justice of the peace at no fee, which is similar to how we offered it before. And thank you so much to Jennifer for that and to the Lions for helping us in our time of need.
Yeah, huge thank you to the community partners. You know, there's a discussion in the library world right now about community-led libraries, and that actually means partnerships between the library and all kinds of entities within their sphere. And this is a lovely example of how that can work with partners stepping in to help the library as the library tries very hard to also help all of the partners. Okay, so thank you, Elizabeth. So we're in new business. I should have mentioned that. Elizabeth has covered the first two items, unless anyone had a question that they did not get to ask.
Madam
Patrick?
Chair? Yes, thank you, Madam Chair. So Elizabeth, for the homebound, you had mentioned the fiscal, that they'll provide the service through the fiscal year. Do you mean the current fiscal year ending June 30th?
Yes.
And they're
And I
not
think-
ready to start it until March?
I think they want to see how it goes before agreeing to go past that point.
Okay, because that only would give you March, if they start by March, that's March, April, May, June. It's not a real long time.
It's not a long time, but I think that they want to investigate a little bit before giving too long of time commitment.
Yeah,
I
okay,
understand that. That makes sense.
yeah,
They have no idea what this job entails.
right. And so they could always extend it before the end of the fiscal year if it turns out to be.
I think they're going to fall in love with our patrons and just enjoy it so
Yeah.
much, but I don't want to speak out of answer.
Ah,
We'll see how it goes.
okay, and then I just had one other question. In your comments earlier, your report, you didn't mention about the Friends wanting to still put signage on the fencing around the Prosser building. So I wanted to ask, is that still something in the works? And if I recall, that needs to go before the library building committee for approval.
Yes,
So,
apologies for not bringing that up, Patrick. Thank you for bringing it up. We actually just got the first mock-up
Oh,
today, I believe.
okay, I just wasn't sure if it was
Yeah.
still happening. Okay.
Yes, I saw the email. I haven't got to open it yet. But we
Okay,
have the first mock-up and that is moving forward full speed. I'm hoping, did you look at it, Chris?
I looked at it quickly and I thought it looked good.
Okay, so I want to say that by next Wednesday, LBC meeting, I think we'll be able to, share something.
Okay, so that, you should probably ask to have that on the agenda, or I could.
Can you,
Yeah.
perfect,
Yeah.
yeah, I'm glad you brought that up, let's, yeah.
Yeah, I've got it.
Organize that for,
I know Penny's not here, so I wasn't sure if that was still in the works or, okay, thank you.
yes, and that is, Bloomfield resident Robin Sherwood, who is also, on the Public Art Commission. So that's wonderful to have that partnership too.
Great.
Bloomfield has it.
Yeah. Okay, no, that'll be good. Thank you, Madam Chair.
Sure. And anybody else have a question? Comment? Okay,
I have a question. Can you hear me?
just barely.
Okay. I'm using a Bluetooth device, so that
Ah.
may be the reason. Can you hear me now?
Yep.
Okay, so I know that Elizabeth mentioned, gave us the numbers for how many full-time employees we had in 2019 versus now, and that we're down to 11. And I just wanted to clarify if the person that they approved is going to make 12, and she said that we needed 13. And the other part of the question is, I know the last meeting she did mention like how many visitors we have now that the library has moved to the atrium, and but I just don't, I can't recall. So if she could share that, even if it's not now, at a later time, so that we're informed if we have to talk to anybody, and advocate for more employees at the library.
Okay.
Thank you, Sherry, and I think I understood that question. And we can email you the list we have. And the position that was green lighted is a youth librarian position, a librarian 3. And we are hoping that that position will be onboarded. I want to say in the next 3 months. The hiring process is a long one. So, yes. And Sherry, I think, did Chris, was there any, I couldn't read everything.
Oh, I think, and that would bring us to 12 once that person is hired. I think that's what Sherry was looking for, confirmation, 12 of 13, once we hire that person.
Thank you for that question, Sherry.
And we can send out the number of visits. I think, so, yeah.
Yes, and I'll send out the number of visits. Most notable to state is that in January, we just surpassed 1,400 visits for the first time to BPL Atrium. And the month prior, I think we were at 1,229. And also the BPL tech space visits over at 330 Park, we had 712 people visit there in January. The month prior, it was 580, to give you an idea. So as people find our temporary locations, they're coming. And if anybody's visited that 330 Park tech space, it is small. It is small, but I know today, as of 10:15 a.m., every computer was filled. So it's rocking and rolling over there.
Okay, great. So you'll send those out. I know I did write down that you had mentioned the 2019, I guess that was 2019, 2020. FTE was 18.52, and now in 23, 24, we're at 15.68. So that's a significant difference, especially given how many of those hours are part-time filling in. It's not as easy as just saying there are 10 people in the library and that's it. It's a constantly shifting group. Okay, Sherry, did that answer your question? Okay, good, thank you. Okay, so something's making a sound. So we're up to new business number 3, discussion of BPL Atrium license agreement expiration. and McMahon Wittenberry timeline. And Elizabeth, I will call on you for that as well.
Okay, so currently the library building committee is on track to upgrade the interior of McMahon Wittenberry Library with a timeline that coincides with the end of our license agreement with the atrium. So we do not have a lease, we have a license with them. Apparently that's a less binding contract. And the lease expires at the end of September. So that would put us moving our entire operation, which into McMahon Wittenberry Library, which in my professional opinion does not work for staff or the public. That being said, if we were forced to do that, we could do that. So I am hoping that we come up with other solutions. Currently, the talk is that it would be between 6 and 8 months is what we're looking at of having McMahon Wittenberry. McMahon Wittenberry's new footprint after the ADA upgrade will be under 6,000 square feet. When we moved out of McMahon Wittenberry, we had a larger footprint. It was not ADA accessible. But so we're moving into a smaller footprint. We are moving our entire operation. We would not be able to have collections there at all. And at our professional development day, we kind of talked about options about what to do and what we could focus on in that time if we had to do that. But again, it will greatly impact library service for 6 to 8 months or more, because it's been my experience in this project that any timeline that we've been given has been completely wrong. So I have reason to believe that a 6 to 8 month estimate would maybe not play out. I'm curious. We have yet to bring in our acting town manager on these discussions, but I'm hopeful that maybe there would be ways to think about other town facilities to use, perhaps. I don't know if there's space at Town Hall or 330 Park, or with the schools, maybe come up with some creative solutions to extend library services in spaces that we have not been yet. But it does not matter what we do. If we move out of BPL Atrium, reconfiguring library service yet again will be a great disruption to our entire community, and as well as our staff. So I know that when we had to pull Homebound away, there was a lot of complaints from the public about that. And all I can say is the complaints about Homebound is nothing compared to the complaints that will come forth if library services are reduced to that scale. So I'm giving that to the board for your consideration to think about.
Thank you. Claudia?
I'm never quite sure what protocol is, so is this a time for me to say something, or should I wait until later point?
No, this is a discussion. And
Okay.
item of business, there's discussion. You can say something later too, if something comes to you at every item. Of course, everybody is free to discuss always.
Okay, thanks.
You
Thanks,
will
Eva.
never need a point of order unless like screwing up. But you know, yes, please do discuss.
All right. Well, Elizabeth, I had a wonderful long talk with Ava yesterday by phone, and it occurred to me, and I have no idea whether this is a useful idea, but right next door to McMahon Library is a large empty space, which was being used by the Early Learning Center. That is not a town building. That is owned by a nonprofit real estate organization called CIL. Sorry, I can't remember what it stands for, but I had in the past had quite a lot of dealings with them, and it's empty and it's has been used recently. I know it's up to code because it was used by a preschool, and I was involved with it when the town sold it to CIL for the Early Learning Center. So that was 2012, and they brought everything up to code, CIL, and put in new windows and so forth. So the building isn't in terrible shape. I mean, I think it could possibly be a good temporary help for the library. And that's all I've got to say about it. But if you want anything more from me on this, I did have contact with them in the past, CIL, so I could probably be helpful.
Yeah, and I thought that was a very interesting idea. Obviously, there are a lot of things that we would need to know, but I'm not entirely clear on who would be the entity who would arrange that. My sense, Patrick, you can let me know what you think. I would think that would go through the library building committee because all of our previous arrangements have gone through LBC. And of course, because we would still have to make some arrangement with the folks who own the building, there would probably be some cost there, but it might certainly be less than the atrium, and the geography is certainly compelling. I'm not sure how we would approach that. Patrick, I will call on you because you are the vice chair of LBC.
Yes.
Any sense of how the mechanics of that conversation would work?
Well, I don't know. I mean, I think anything we would do involves money. And so the question I think has to be asked is, who pays for that? Does the project have to pay for that? Or is it something the town would be willing to, pay for? The other thing is the number of moves. It sort of is increasing. Granted, it's great to have that extra space and be so closely located, the proximity of the two buildings. Maybe that building could be used for storage. I mean, if in fact we did have to move out of the atrium, I think one of the questions is the storage. Where would everything go, all the collections? Maybe it's possible to use, that building, but again, you're still looking at a rental fee, you're still looking at moving there, moving out of there, moving from McMahon out into Prosser. So there so many more things are involved.
Well, right now, the collection would have to be moved to a storage facility. So that move would still exist.
Would still
And
exist no
we'd
matter
pay
what.
for that
That's true.
storage. So the LBC would have been paying for storage for the collections in a storage facility. I don't know what those fees would be, but maybe there's a way to make that closer to McMahon. There may even be a way to have things available in that building, depending. I think it would have to be assessed by
Yeah,
the Public Works Department. I think Glenn would have to check that out. But
right.
I have a sense that this would be something LBC would have to start because
Yeah.
we don't have that authority.
No, I could certainly take it back to LBC, and raise it with the chair and Nancy Haynes, who's our business manager. I could, put that out there as a suggestion.
Yeah, because
see if
we're
that's
already looking at fees for storage.
right.
And the move to wherever the storage might be. It might actually
Yeah.
reduce the amount of the move if the movers are going from the atrium only to a couple of buildings that are right next to each other as
True.
opposed to various and sundry other places. So that's something that LBC could find out more formally.
Yeah,
I think this is certainly worth at least checking. You know, and if it maybe becomes more than that, great. If it isn't feasible, we're no worse off than we are now.
right.
Anything that
harm, no
might
foul.
improve this situation to me is definitely worth investigation, because right now what we're talking about is dire. So if we can, and that's a pretty big building. That used to be a school.
Right.
So it has a gym, it has classrooms. There may be some possibilities there for other things. You know, that seems like it never hurts to ask. There's the teacher part of me. No such thing as a dumb question. Somebody can tell you no, but at least you asked.
CIL stands for Corporation for Independent Living.
Huh.
That it's a nonprofit real estate developer, which sounds like an oxymoron, but they have done a lot of work for decades in Connecticut, mostly in the housing sector. But they took pity on the Early Learning Center when we had our troubles in 2012, and you know, made arrangements to buy the building and then have the Early Learning Center there, which is where they were before also. So it's a long story.
Yeah. No, I think it's definitely a great suggestion to look into that possibility.
Okay.
If it turns into something better than what we have now, or somehow more feasible, terrific. And if it doesn't, we will have to keep thinking about that, but we can hope. So Patrick, thank you for bringing that back to LBC.
Yes.
And maybe that is something that could be discussed sort of soon, so that if it has to play into planning, you know, that could happen. Because we know what the reaction would be to anything that would make the planning process longer. So the
Yeah.
sooner the better, I think there. And thank you so much, Claudia. When you said that, when you were talking about that yesterday, I could see a lot of possibilities for that building, depending on, of course, how, you know, what the council's plans are, etc. But it is so close, and it would be, you know, especially as that park project hopefully progresses, there's so much that could happen in that space. That might be nice. Bev, I'm sorry, are you raising your
That's
hand?
okay, I was just raising my hand again. I think the very best thing we can do is to find some money to stay where we are right now. And I'm wondering why the library building committee doesn't approach the town council with that idea. Certainly, I think it's worth tossing out. You know, it saves all of the costs of moving. We're right here, people are used to coming here. There are just so many pluses for staying put for 8 months rather than moving everybody around and creating confusion, staffing, patrons. I think that's the best solution. I know it's expensive, but so is all of this moving. So I don't know if that's something the library building committee is willing to tackle, or.
I can find that out, but right now the plan is that the atrium lease ends and the move would be over to, you know, to.
But was
the
it ever
McMahon.
explored that we could continue the lease if we could get the money?
We can if we pay the money. I mean, I'm sure the lease could be extended, but the question again that I'm not clear on is, can the project, if the project pays for that, that money has to come from somewhere. Or can the town pay to keep the atrium extended? I don't know.
So
I
were
don't
these
know that answer.
possibilities explored by the building committee or just
I don't
one?
know.
They just decided to, okay.
Thank you. I still think it's the best solution.
I don't think anyone has explored it,
Okay.
from what I know, but
Okay, so that puts us in the
it's come
situation
up.
of that neither case is something that's in the board's jurisdiction, but the LBC could explore that because it is part and parcel of the project. And the LBC then can speak with council, whereas we don't have the standing. We can make suggestions, we can talk in public comment, but LBC has the standing to engage in that conversation with the council. And what's the worst they can say? They might say no, we're no worse off than we are now. If you don't ask, then nothing happens. So if LBC would want to communicate that possibility to the council or any of these possibilities, it seems like it's definitely worth having the conversation. Okay, and thank you for that, Patrick.
Sure, yeah, I can take both of those. Thank you.
Okay,
In relation to that too, is the Department of Economic Development. I'm wondering if we went to them and said, hey, we might have to cut library services for 8 months. Is there any way that you could help us with that? They might be interested in that as well.
of knowing that what the rules are for the DECD, you mean to say a CIF?
No, just there's been money known to come forth as we saw with Southington.
So
So just
grant aid.
putting, like maybe just putting the ball in their court of what's needed.
Okay, so yeah, DECD also has given some projects a grant in aid. We probably need to know what the terms of that are, but the LBC might be able to do that. I am not familiar with that process. I don't know if that goes through legislative representation or if that's something we can apply for or how that works. But that might be something that LBC would be interested in finding out because DECD did indeed tell us, if you need money, you should ask. If they can come up with a grant and aid, that would be splendid. That would solve a lot of problems, or at least make them less intrusive on the service model. So maybe that's another thing you could raise with LBC leadership, Patrick, and find out.
So you're talking about the Economic Development Council in Bloomfield?
No, this
So we got the
DECD is
CIF
the
grant
state.
from-
Oh, it's the state.
I was confused with that
Right.
too.
Yeah,
Joe.
They administer the CIF grants, but they also have other grant and aid programs because I think that's what Southington was awarded. That was not a CIF, I don't think, for that additional.
Correct.
I think
Correct.
DECD arranged for a grant and aid, and I do not know anything about that process. We have not engaged in that. And the librarian in me is making notes here, like, look it up. And I will. But that is probably something that is the town side. I think LBC would have to initiate that. I'm not sure that we can. But I will look at that also. But if you would speak to LBC leadership, that it certainly doesn't hurt anything for all of us to be looking into that, because if we can find some more money, it's good for Bloomfield, then let's do that. I wasn't kidding. I'm writing myself a note to look with lots of stars on the paper. Okay. So is there any other discussion or comment that anybody would like to make about the arrangement of staying in Atrium, going back to McMahon, anything under that item?
There's one other thing that probably struck someone out of word, but I was thinking that if we could stay here, that we could use McMahon for a computer situation and get all of that out away from the senior center.
which I think would be helpful. There'd be more room for more computers. And so it would give us two really nice locations. If we could manage to pull this off. It sounds kind of pie in the sky, but I'm always willing to aim for that. So I think if that would be helpful too, if we could manage to do both areas. So that's it.
Yeah, so we don't want McMahon to sit empty for
No, it
8
wouldn't.
months. Yeah.
I mean, you know, it would be great to have all the computers there.
Mhm.
And so we have two locations and maybe something else as well. But it seems that we have lots of people that want to use computers in a very small area at the senior center. So we need more space for that as well.
It's also a lot closer to a lot of folks who use the space at 330 Park. So rather than having to take a bus or arrange for transportation to get 330, if they're back right in the neighborhood at McMahon, that's another plus. And it'll be a nice space. You know, the one in 330, I have not been there, but I've seen some of the pictures and it's pretty tight. So being able to spread out those services would be great. Okay, doke. Anybody else comment? I don't want anybody to not be able to speak.
I just wanted to note one more thing, that we realize that these service changes are really hard on the public. And Patrick was able to come over and talk with the leadership team of the library, and we're hoping to have a community type forum with a tentative date of March 5. So if everybody could put that on their schedule. And we're going to be talking with the Office of Strategic Communications, where we'll be able to talk about McMahon Wittenberry's future, but also some of these items as well, and just give more of a voice to our public in that process. So details to come.
Oh, okay. You'll send out the details.
Yes.
Okay.
This was only this afternoon that we had this conversation. Everything is moving so quick. Sometimes,
Yeah.
right.
Yeah, and that's a wonderful idea because right now I'm not sure that everybody, in fact, I'm quite sure that everybody does not know the status or the plans. And I think everybody in town needs to know that. It would not be something where you want to have it suddenly be kind of a surprise. And of course, when we started this project, we asked everyone for input. You know, we made thousands of phone calls, we sent surveys, we hired consultants to help analyze. We did a great deal to ensure that there would be maximum community input. So having a way to do that, even if it's on a small scale, is certainly something that I think is of great value. And I think everyone doesn't just want to be included, but they deserve to be included. This is the town's library, and the people of the town who are paying the taxes and pay for these facilities and use the facilities certainly need to know what's going on and let us know. You know, someone may have a wonderful idea and bring that forth. That would be great. So that's excellent. Thank you. Okay, does anyone have, we've kind of slid from old business into new business. Because this is a special meeting, we can't add anything to the agenda. But if anybody has anything they would like to say about any of the points that we've just discussed, then please do so. You know, anybody?
We can't,
I'm sorry, go ahead.
all right, I'm sorry that I don't, I guess this could be an addition. Can I just ask you whether it would be appropriate?
Sure.
Okay. I am involved with the Conservation, Energy, and Environment Committee. And we are going for with the Capital Region Council of Governments for we're going for a we're involved with their seeking federal funding for the regional group set of towns in climate issues. And so now I've really probably started a new topic, right, Ava?
It
'Cause I
depends on what your question or,
Well, this is, all right, the question is, what, what plans would the library like to have, for, uh, green technology if we had the money?
okay. So that's more complicated question, but just to give you a little background, we are looking for the facilities to be LEED silver. And they will, they will have solar panels, on the roof. And I'm not sure everything the plans have been moving so quickly. I don't know everything about them, but it has been a consideration. For the actual construction project, that becomes a question to address to the library building committee.
Okay.
Afterward, then it becomes a question of town business, and then it's we would address that separately as opposed to something that is part of the project. If you were saying, hey, let's do, I don't know, some system for the library in the construction project, that's the LBC's jurisdiction, not ours. But afterwards, then if there's something else that comes up, then we can discuss that and figure out who we talk to, whether it's the town manager because it becomes a budget issue, whether it's the council for approval. We would figure that out at a later time. But it is part of the construction project, and it has been an area. And I'm sure you know Lois Hager.
Yes.
She has been very involved in the conversations about that. So if you're looking for more details, she might also be a good source.
Yeah. Great. This is by no means a formality. These are just things you add in when you're talking about comments, when you're making comments on someone else's grant proposal. So it's very interim. Thanks. I'll talk to Lois.
Yeah, and I know that she has been a very strong proponent for the solar component, for having a weather station on the library, outdoor use, all kinds of things that I think are common areas that you would be interested in. So she might be a good start, and she's on the LBC. So, maybe start there and then we'll figure it out from there. But yeah, I mean, we're discussing the project, so I think that's certainly appropriate. If we were going to make a motion for something separately, then we'd have to wait. I'm sitting here with like I have my Robert's rules bookmarked, and I looked at the rules for special meetings because it's not the same as one of our normal meetings where we can say, oh, we'd like to talk about this. We'll just stick it in there. We can't legally. But that is related, and it's a good point. And if it turns out that there's something that could be managed that way, great. Terrific.
Thank you.
Okay, thanks, Claudia. Okay.
But just a reminder that, the Republican committee, right, so they have to leave.
Yeah, we have to keep moving here partly because we're about to lose a couple of our trustees. Chris, do we have any citizens present who might want to comment?
Not tonight, no.
Nope. Okay, so are there any other quick board comments before we leave so that Bev and Patrick can go to their next meeting? This day turned out to be a lot for a lot of people. Okay, any other board comment? I'm sorry.
Wendy from the Lions
I was
just
just gonna
showed
say
up.
that
Sorry.
Wendy, I could only see her nose for a minute there. I wasn't
Sorry.
sure.
I can move.
Okay, so I'm not hearing board comments. Can we quickly discuss the approval of the minutes of January 9th, 2024? Does anyone have any corrections or additions? Okay, hearing none. Then would somebody like to move that the minutes of January 9th, 2024 be approved as submitted?
So moved.
So,
Okay, so I think Claudia beat you out by.
Claudia, yeah,
You could
Claudia
second.
got it.
Okay, so Claudia moves, Patrick seconds. Okay, all in favor? You can-
I,
Okay, aye. And there's Sherry. Okay, Sherry, did you vote on approving the minutes? Okay, I'm not quite used to this format yet, so sorry, bear with me. Okay, so the minutes of January 9th, 2024 are approved. Unless there is an objection, then we are adjourned. And Patrick and Bev can run for the parking lot.
Thank you both.
Okay, thank you very much, everyone. I
Thank
know
you.
this was challenging.
Sorry, Wendy, because